Oh my gosh, look at him go. Oh, he's adorable. Oh wow, this is so cool. So I got this prompt a couple days ago. I'm trying to figure out what to do. So I first got into photography with wildlife, particular birds. And so I mostly used a telescopic lens. Then I got a macro lens that I use mostly for bugs and flowers. I've also been fortunate enough to be able to shoot some sports, mostly auto racing. I've dabbled in landscapes, portraits, abstracts, just kind of tried my hand in a lot of things, including astrophotography, which I've only really ever been able to do with my telephoto lens on a tripod. And I've always been kind of curious about setting up a telescope with like an attachment or something so I can actually take proper photos. But for this project, I'm going almost opposite of that because I'm going to try some microscopic photography. And they're actually fairly similar, I think, because you kind of just need an adapter to the eyepiece, whether you're looking through a microscope or a telescope. So if I do end up getting a telescope in the future, hopefully this experience will kind of help me with that. And fortunately, everything's already here. So this is my camera. This is a Nikon D850 with the battery attachment. And on the front, I've already mounted the attachment that will go into the microscope's eyepiece. Then I also got this set of microscope slides that are already prepared. And so I think a lot of these will probably be really clean samples to photograph. However, I do want to also get some from the area around me. So I did get some little sample jars, some slides, labels, and things like that, so I can go collect some of my own. But I think these are probably gonna make the best photos just because they're already gonna be prepared in ways that I really don't know how to do. So let's see what we got. There's my first photo. So that is penicillin. Definitely need to kind of adjust some settings here, but that came out pretty cool, I think. All right, this is awesome. I am loving this. I'm gonna go through a lot more of these later, but I really want to go try and collect some of my own samples and see how those come out. So I'm probably gonna go on a trip and stop by maybe like a pond in my neighborhood, get some water from that. Maybe some stuff from my yard and just see what I find. Prepping these samples worked well for the most part. However, since I'm brand new to this and I don't have the equipment required for super thin slicing or dyeing, many of the items I wanted to photograph just weren't visible. This is due to the microscope itself. So this is a compound microscope where the light shines from below the sample up into the magnifying lens. This means that samples need to be really thin and or translucent to be seen well. A stereo microscope, on the other hand, uses light from above, allowing 3D and opaque objects to be seen. However, these usually have a much lower magnification and are typically used for things like inspecting jewelry rather than for scientific use. I settled on a compound microscope because I really just wanted to photograph things that I can't typically see with my naked eye, even if it is a bit more restricting for photography. Here are some of my favorite images that I took from both the pre-prepared slides as well as ones I sourced and prepped myself. I'm not going to reveal what they are, but feel free to leave a comment down below with what you think each of these images is. One thing to note, none of these images were taken from my water samples. Unfortunately, I didn't collect the water correctly, and those samples were entirely too clean. I did eventually find a way to get some better samples, and that is by using some pantyhose and other stuff. All right, we are done. So this is what it looks like. Yes, the idea is this hole's obviously open. You got these 3 strings, and so you drag it through the water, kind of like this, and all the water goes in and collects down through the mesh. So ideally, all the water leaves and all the other stuff gets kind of stuck and funneled down into this bottom part. And at the end, you're left with basically a cup full of stuff. And then I'm gonna take this, and then all you have to do is just open the cap and basically drain it out into your collection cup. I started at a small, slow-moving creek in my neighborhood, tossing the plankton net out and then reeling it back toward me. I then moved upstream a ways and found a fast-flowing spot where I could just let the water flow through the net. And finally, I gathered some additional samples from one of my neighborhood ponds. After prepping multiple slides from each water sample, I decided to record video from my camera to capture the movement and kind of document the hunt. I ended up recording about an hour of this, and that entire video is up now on Patreon. And here are just a few clips of some of my favorite microorganisms that I found in just a small amount of the water that I collected. Overall, I found it incredibly fascinating diving into this tiny ecosystem. Both the creek and pond had tons of life. The plankton net really did work, and with each sample, there were new things to find. I think gathering more samples from various other sources could end up being really cool. And in fact, I think that could be a pretty neat idea for a live stream at some point. So watch out, because that might be something I stream on Discord in the future. While I did get fairly distracted recording video, I didn't forget that my challenge was specifically for photography, so I did make sure to also take some photos. Again, I won't give away what these are, so leave your guesses in the comments. In this case though, I have absolutely no clue what any of these are, so actually please do let me know, because I really am curious. And there it is, over 50 images taken through a microscope. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment with your guesses, and check out my Patreon for the full microscope video, early access to all my challenge videos, and lots more. Peace.